Oprah Winfrey built an empire worth billions and inspired millions for decades. But in 2024, she paid a seven-figure amount to stop her own documentary from airing. What was in it that scared her so much? That same year, a $1 million payment to her company from a political campaign raised questions she couldn't fully answer. Then came the stock crash. When she left WeightWatchers after admitting she used weight loss drugs, investors lost 70% of their money overnight. Behind the charity work and the smiles, there's a pattern people are starting to notice. Today, we're uncovering the side of Oprah the cameras never showed. Oprah Winfrey was born on January 29, 1954, in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. There was a brutal winter storm that night. She weighed just 5 pounds and 7 ounces. Her mother, Vernita Lee, was only 18 and unmarried. She worked as a maid and made just $50 a week. Oprah was first named Orpah, after a woman in the Bible, but no one said it right. Everyone called her Oprah, so they changed it on the papers. Her father, Vernon Winfrey, didn't even know she was born. He found out through a newspaper clipping that Vernita mailed to him, asking for baby clothes. He had been a coal miner and later became a barber. That year, in 1954, America was still segregated. Black families like Oprah's were stuck in poverty. Her birth came 1 year before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat. The weather was bad, the floodwaters were rising, and her arrival into the world already felt like a warning of everything she'd go through. At just 6 months old, her mother left. She went to Milwaukee hoping to find a better job. But even there, she worked as a maid for only $50 a week. Oprah stayed behind with her grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee, in a wooden house on a pig farm. There was no electricity and no water. Oprah wore dresses made from potato sacks. Kids at church laughed at her and called her Sack Girl. Her grandmother was strict. If Oprah spilled water or made too much noise, she got hit with tree switches. But Hattie Mae taught her to read at age 3 using Bible flashcards. She even got her into school early. Oprah became close with the farm animals and played with roaches as if they were her friends. Her only doll was a dried corn cob wrapped in old rags. That's how poor they were. When Oprah turned 6, her grandmother became too sick to take care of her. Oprah had to leave the farm and move to Milwaukee with her mother. By that time, Vernita had 2 more children, Patricia, born in 1959, and Jeffrey in 1960. The new home was a tiny apartment in the city. It was crowded and loud, nothing like the farm. Oprah was shocked. Her mother was working all the time and barely around. One night, they moved in with a light-skinned man. He didn't want Oprah in the house. That first night, she was told to sleep on a sofa outside on the porch. Her mother said nothing. Oprah sat there in the dark, freezing and alone. That night, she realized what it meant to feel unwanted and unprotected. She said later, that was the first time she truly understood that a girl like her wasn't safe in a world full of men. At 9 years old, something even worse began. Her cousin, who was 19, raped her while she was visiting family. Afterward, he took her to get ice cream and told her not to tell anyone. The abuse didn't stop there. It kept happening. Her uncle, a family friend, over and over. For 5 years straight, from age 9 to 14, Oprah lived in secret pain. She called it soul murder. She didn't talk about it until she was 24. When she finally told her family in 1986, they didn't believe her. That silence, that disbelief, hurt her even more. The damage stayed with her. She grew up thinking this was just how things were for girls like her. At 14, she became pregnant. She hid it as long as she could. But when her ankles swelled up, people found out. She gave birth early, and the baby died soon after. She was never allowed to hold him or even name him. She was told to move on and forget. But she didn't. In 2016, on a tour in Australia, someone asked if she ever named her child. She said she did. She called him Canaan. In Hebrew, it means new land or new life. That tiny boy, gone before he had a chance, became the reason Oprah swore to change her life. She promised herself she would escape, no matter what. That same year, in 1968, she was sent to live with her father Vernon in Nashville. She had hit rock bottom. Her life was going in the wrong direction. But Vernon didn't let her fall. He made rules. She had to write book reports every single day. She had to get good grades. She had to follow curfew. Oprah later said if she hadn't gone to her father, she could have ended up in jail. But instead, she skipped grades and started doing well in school. By the time she was 17 in 1971, she entered a speaking contest and won with a poem called "Thank God for Daddies." Her prize was a trip to a local radio station. When they heard her voice, they hired her. She became a newsreader on WVOL radio for $35 a week. She was still a high school student and already working on air. She even got a scholarship to Tennessee State University. That job became her first step into media. That same year, she entered a local beauty pageant and won Miss Fire Prevention 1971. She was the first black woman to win. But when she tried to enter a local club to celebrate, they stopped her at the door. It was whites only. She wasn't welcome. She had the crown, but not the respect. That moment changed her again. It made her want to go into journalism, not just to be seen, but to tell the truth. In 1973, at age 19, she became the first black woman to anchor the news on a Nashville TV station. They paid her $15,000 a year. She was also the youngest anchor there. But something didn't sit right. The people in charge kept saying she was too emotional. She cried too easily. She connected too much. That wasn't what news anchors were supposed to do, but Oprah couldn't help it. In 1975, she was one credit away from finishing college. But she dropped out to work full-time in TV. Her professor thought she was making a mistake. But her father said, "This is what school was for." She started working from 2:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. every day, still following her 11 p.m. curfew. Years later, in 1988, she finally went back and got her degree, just around the time she had already won 3 Emmys. In 1976, when she was 22, she got a new job in Baltimore at WJZ-TV. They didn't like her hair. They said it was too thick and didn't work with their blue screen. They sent her to a fancy salon in New York. The stylist promised he knew how to handle it, but the perm chemicals burned her scalp. She screamed. He told her to wait. Her hair fell out. Her scalp turned into scabs. She felt humiliated. She started using thick gel to hide the bald spots. She said she felt like one of those balding men who try to cover up what's gone. Then one day, she had to report on a child abuse case. It hit too close. While reading the news on live TV, she started crying. She couldn't hold it in. She remembered her own past. The producers said she was too emotional, unprofessional. They demoted her to small weekend segments. She was embarrassed. That moment could have ended everything. In 1977, after just 7.5 months on the big desk, she got fired. A producer told her she was unfit for TV news because of how she acted. But later, she found out the real reason. They said she was too black. Her delivery, her expressions, her voice, none of it fit their mold. She was making $20,000 a year, trying to find her place in a system that didn't want her. The rejection broke her. She started gaining weight. She hit 200 pounds. She stopped going out. She felt invisible. She saw herself as a failure. She wrote a check to a diet doctor in 1977 and kept it for years. It reminded her how lost she felt. That year, she began the cycle that would haunt her for decades, trying to change her body just to feel accepted. Then something strange happened. After the firing, they gave her a small talk show called People Are Talking. It was supposed to be a dead-end job, but it saved her. Sitting next to host Richard Scher, she was allowed to be herself. She cried with guests. She laughed. She didn't hold back. People started watching. The ratings climbed. Oprah wasn't just reading news anymore. She was making people feel seen. That little morning show became the start of something massive. In late 1983, a man named Dennis Swanson was running WLS-TV in Chicago. He took a bold step and hired a 29-year-old black woman from Baltimore for just $30,000 a year. Her name was Oprah Winfrey. Almost no one believed it would work. The city's morning TV was filled with white hosts, and people didn't think a young black woman could fit in. She started her show on January 2, 1984. It was called AM Chicago, and only lasted 30 minutes. The first episode didn't go well. Oprah herself later said it was a disaster. They didn't even have a proper audience. So producers placed folding chairs and begged staff and strangers with coffee and donuts just to sit in the room. But something strange happened. Within a month, her way of talking to people, the way she listened and understood them, it changed everything. The show went from being dead last to #1 in Chicago. She even beat Phil Donahue, the biggest talk show name in town. No one expected it, not even Oprah. On September 8, 1986, her new show went national. It started in 138 markets at once, reaching 92% of all American TV homes. No talk show had ever launched that big. A company named King World made the deal after movie critic Roger Ebert convinced her it was the right move. He told her she'd make 40 times what his show made. The numbers from day one were wild. Donahue won the first Monday with 26% of viewers. Oprah had 23%. But on Tuesday, Oprah jumped to 30%, and Donahue dropped to 18%. By Wednesday, she was up again, 29% to his 22%. Soon she wasn't just beating him, she was doubling his numbers. Her show had started with a confrontational style like Donahue, but then she switched. She began opening up more, showing her own emotions, listening instead of debating. Within 2 years, she had 12 million people watching every week and won her first daytime Emmy in 1988. That same year, on February 4th, something unforgettable happened. Oprah invited skinheads from California onto her show. These were neo-Nazis from the San Fernando Valley. One of them, Marty Cox, was linked to a hate group called White Aryan Resistance. He came just for this show. During the taping, he looked at a black woman in the audience and called her a monkey. Oprah didn't hold back. She asked him, "You think because she's black and because I'm black, we're monkeys?" He answered, "It's a proven fact." The studio went cold. People were yelling. Some were doing Nazi salutes. Security rushed in and dragged out Cox and 13 others. They left shouting and throwing up their arms in salute. Oprah tried to stay calm, but she was visibly shaken. After that, she had to hire private security. For the first time in her career, she felt truly unsafe. That moment made it clear just how dangerous her growing fame could be. That same year, Oprah became part of another national obsession, her weight. When the show launched in 1986, she weighed 237 pounds. It became the focus of tabloids. Headlines called her names and claimed doctors had warned her to lose weight or die. In November 1988, she shocked everyone. She wheeled a red wagon onto the stage filled with 67 pounds of animal fat. That's how much she had lost using a liquid diet. She wore skinny jeans and looked proud, but it didn't last. She later admitted that just one day after the show, she began gaining weight again. The diet had taken 5 months. She hadn't eaten solid food at all. Critics said the stunt was dangerous. Oprah herself called it her biggest mistake. She said it sent the wrong message, that starving yourself was the answer. It wasn't. But behind the scenes, something even darker was happening. Few people knew that during her early years in TV, Oprah was using cocaine. She finally revealed this in 1995 during a show about addiction. She told one of her guests, "I did your drug." She had been in her 20s, working in Baltimore, and involved in a toxic relationship. She said, "I can't think of anything I wouldn't have done for that man." She described her double life. She went to church every Sunday, had a perfect afro, and did drugs in secret. It was her deepest shame. She also began therapy during this time to deal with childhood abuse. She said her success came not from her own doing, but from something higher, something she called divine timing. All this was happening at the same time she was winning awards and leading ratings. In 1986, she created something bigger. She founded Harpo Productions. The name was Oprah, spelled backward, but it was also a nod to her character's husband in The Color Purple. She became the first black woman to own a major multimedia company. By 1988, Harpo bought full control of her show from ABC. They spent $20 million renovating a 100,000-square-foot studio in Chicago's West Loop. That move turned Harpo into a $100 million business with over 200 staff. She was now not just the host, but the owner and producer. Only 2 other women in history had ever run a major studio before her. In 1996, she did something no one expected from a talk show host. She launched a book club. The first pick was The Deep End of the Ocean. At first, only 68,000 copies had been printed. After Oprah mentioned it, sales shot up to 700,000. Over the next 14 years, she picked more than 70 books. They sold over 55 million copies combined. But a strange thing happened. A study in 2014 found that overall fiction book sales actually dropped by 2.5% each time she picked a new book. Why? Because readers stopped buying their usual genres like mystery or romance and tried the more serious books Oprah chose. Her impact was powerful, but it changed the whole industry in unexpected ways. In April 1996, she aired an episode called Dangerous Foods. She learned cows were being fed remains of other cows. It made her say on air, "I'll never eat another hamburger." That one sentence caused a firestorm. Texas cattlemen sued her for more than $10 million. They said her words caused beef prices to crash. The trial began in 1998 in Amarillo, Texas, and lasted 6 weeks. It became national news. Oprah won the case. A judge said her show didn't lie or defame the cattle industry. The ruling stood even after appeal in 2000. Oprah said later that she had no idea one sentence could create that much chaos. In February 1993, Oprah did a live interview with Michael Jackson at his Neverland Ranch. 90 million people watched. It became one of the most watched interviews in television history. But only 6 months later, Jackson was accused of child sexual abuse. Some critics blamed Oprah. They said she had helped him clean up his image just before the scandal hit. During the interview, she had asked him about his childhood, his looks, and his relationships. She had shown empathy. That kindness may have made the public trust him more. It became a lesson in the risks of giving celebrities a platform. In 1998, Oprah helped turn a novel into a film. The book was Toni Morrison's Beloved. Oprah loved it so much, she bought the rights herself for $1 million. It took her 10 years to get the movie made. She starred in it and produced it. But when the film came out, it failed at the box office. Disney only broke even because a comedy called The Waterboy saved their earnings. Even worse, the Oscars ignored it completely. No nominations. Critics were shocked. They said the Academy didn't see Oprah as anything more than a talk show host. Years earlier, The Color Purple had also been snubbed. Oprah said the Oscars weren't what she thought they were. In 2007, she opened a $40 million school for girls in South Africa. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy was her dream. But in November that year, the dream turned into heartbreak. A dorm matron named Virginia Mogobo was accused of abusing the students. 13 charges were filed. Oprah held a press conference in Chicago and cried as she called it, "the most devastating experience of my life." She gave every student a cell phone to reach her directly and brought in trauma counselors. Mogobo was later cleared of all charges in 2010, but the damage had been done. In 2009, more trouble came when 7 students were suspended for bullying. Oprah had chosen every girl from 3,500 applicants. She had given her heart, and it broke. Back in 1986, Oprah was nominated for an Oscar for her role in The Color Purple. She lost to Angelica Houston in Prizzi's honor. That loss created a quiet tension. Houston later said that Oprah never invited her on the show, not once in 40 years. Oprah had been discovered by Steven Spielberg. That role changed her life, even though she didn't earn much money for it. The movie got 11 nominations but didn't win a single one. Out of Africa won Best Picture instead. Oprah used her fame to speak about abuse survivors. Her role didn't win gold, but it gave her a voice that millions listened to. In 2000, stories began to spread about Oprah using diet pills. Back in 1988, her fat wagon stunt made headlines. But behind the scenes, she was struggling. She lost all that weight, but gained 5 pounds in 3 days, 10 pounds in 1 week. The pressure was enormous. By 2023, she admitted to using prescription weight loss medication. She called it a relief and a gift. She said she had always blamed herself, thinking it was her fault. But she learned that her body was fighting her. The public had watched her gain and lose weight for decades. The fat wagon brought in the biggest audience of her career, but it also haunted her for years. Over time, she donated over $400 million to charities. But not everyone saw it as kindness. Critics began calling her a white savior, especially for how she built her South African school. It had yoga studios, beauty salons, and luxury rooms that felt more like hotels. The South African government pulled back, saying it was too fancy for poor children. Oprah defended her decision. She said those girls deserved the best, but many felt the money could have helped more people if used differently. Even when she gave $1.5 million to rebuild a school in Zimbabwe, people still questioned her motives. They said her charity felt more like self-promotion than real help. In 2011, Oprah launched a cable network called OWN. Discovery invested $315 million. They believed anything Oprah touched turned to gold. But it went badly. The network lost $330 million in just 2 years. Ratings were terrible. Fewer than 200,000 people watched in prime time. Oprah said she had a nervous breakdown. She was stretched too thin. By March 2011, Discovery was already talking about pulling out. Oprah's net worth dropped by $125 million. She was overwhelmed and couldn't save it alone. OWN's programming became a disaster too. Rosie O'Donnell's show cost $20 million a year, but got fewer than 500,000 viewers. Oprah tried to control everything: menus, lights, scripts. It caused delays and chaos. In July 2012, they fired 200 people, about 20% of the staff. The work culture turned toxic. She went through 3 programming heads in 18 months, each time paying big severance packages. Tyler Perry stepped in during 2013. His drama, The Haves and the Have-Nots, brought in 3.1 million viewers. That was 6 times more than anything OWN had seen. His shows brought $85 million in ad money. But Oprah wasn't happy. The shows had sex, violence, and drug storylines. She felt like her brand was slipping away. She said she felt spiritually empty. She didn't want that kind of content, but Discovery overruled her. She later called it selling her soul. They signed a 15-year deal with Perry worth $200 million. In 2012, another scandal hit. A man named Marcus Williams sued OWN. He worked as a production assistant and claimed he had been sexually harassed by several male staff members. He said people touched him and made crude jokes. OWN had no HR training or background checks. Over 400 contractors worked without vetting. He asked for $3.2 million. They settled quietly in 2013. Experts say the settlement was around $1.8 million, plus $500,000 in legal fees. After that, OWN made major changes to how it handled hiring and complaints. In December 2007, Oprah Winfrey did something that surprised the entire political world. She stepped into politics and publicly supported Barack Obama. It wasn't just a small gesture. Economists later figured out that because of her, Obama got over 1 million extra votes in the Democratic primary. The numbers were very specific: 101,015,559 votes, with a possible range between 423,123 and 1,596,995. Wherever her magazine and book club had big followings, Obama's votes shot up. Especially in places like Iowa, where caucuses mattered the most, her influence made a huge difference. She also helped raise more money for his campaign in those same areas. But long before that, in 1991, she had already entered the national conversation in another way. After Anita Hill testified against Clarence Thomas for sexual harassment during his Supreme Court hearings, Oprah brought her on her show in 1992. Hill's testimony had been watched by millions, and it changed how the country talked about harassment. In fact, the number of complaints doubled after that. While Oprah was shaping political conversations, something else was shifting in her personal world. Back in the 1980s, she and Donald Trump were actually friendly. He once said that if he ever ran for president, she would be his first choice for vice president. That was in 1999. In 2000, he even sent her a copy of his book, writing that they'd be a great team. She replied with a handwritten letter saying, "What a team." But by 2016, everything had changed. When Trump ran for president, Oprah supported Hillary Clinton and publicly called Trump dangerous. He didn't hold back either. He started making personal remarks, even attacking her weight and calling her fake news. In 2024, after she interviewed Kamala Harris, Trump posted online that Oprah looked like she wanted to crawl under a table. That was the final nail. She didn't even reach out to Trump after his campaign announcement. Their friendship was over. In 2020, something else happened that shook the entertainment world. Just 15 days before the Sundance premiere of a documentary about Russell Simmons and the women who accused him of assault, Oprah backed out as executive producer. She sent the filmmakers an email at 3:10 p.m., then made a public statement just 20 minutes later. She said the film wasn't ready and more work needed to be done. Right after she pulled out, Apple TV Plus dropped the film too. Simmons had already posted an open letter to her on Instagram a month earlier, beginning with, "Dearest Oprah." The film was later picked up by HBO Max and released on May 27, 2020. But that wasn't the last time she stepped away from a documentary. In 2024, she paid millions to Apple TV Plus to stop another documentary about her from ever airing. This one was directed by Oscar winner Kevin McDonald and had been in the works for years. When Oprah saw the final cut, she hated it. She wanted scenes removed, especially ones that showed her being too controlling or egotistical. When the director refused, she bought back the entire film. Insiders said she paid a seven-figure amount just to keep it hidden. Around that same time, rumors started flying that she was paid $1 million by Kamala Harris's campaign in October 2024. The money came just days after Oprah hosted a town hall for Harris packed with celebrities. Oprah told TMZ she wasn't paid a cent, but federal records showed her production company, Harpo Productions, did receive exactly $1 million. Her team said it was to cover production costs. But critics pointed out that since she owns Harpo, it still ended up benefiting her. Trump called it payola and demanded an investigation. In September 2024, she found herself dragged into another false rumor. After Diddy was arrested on sex trafficking and racketeering charges, fake stories popped up online claiming Gayle King had sued Oprah for being connected to Diddy's crimes. It all came from a Facebook page based in Indonesia. The rumors were totally false, but they spread fast. Oprah had to publicly say, "I've never been near a puff party." Still, the damage was done. Some people believed it. Fact-checkers traced the story back to QAnon-style conspiracy groups that often target rich public figures with wild lies. Things didn't slow down in 2025 either. In July, after an 8.8 earthquake near Russia triggered tsunami warnings in Hawaii, Oprah's $6.6 million ranch on Maui became the center of controversy. Online posts claimed she blocked access to an emergency road that passed through her property. People said residents trying to escape flooding were forced to take dangerous mountain roads. Later, her team said she had worked with law enforcement and FEMA to open the road to 50 vehicles at a time. But critics said it was too late. They believed she cared more about protecting her land than helping people escape. Earlier that year, in February 2024, Oprah's decision to leave WeightWatchers caused a huge financial crash. She donated her 1.13 million shares, worth $318 million, to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. It looked generous, but the timing made headlines. She left right after admitting she had used weight loss drugs like Ozempic. When she exited, the company's stock dropped from over $20 to just $2.88. That's a 70% collapse. Back in 2015, her $43 million investment in the company had grown to over $400 million. But this time, many investors lost big. Not everything was scandal or controversy. By 2025, Oprah had donated a total of $400 million across different causes. A big part of that went to education. Her Oprah Winfrey Scholars Program at Morehouse College became the largest scholarship fund in the school's 158-year history. Since 1989, it supported over 700 students. In 2019, she added $13 million to the fund, bringing her total Morehouse donation to $25 million. In 2021, she launched a new scholarship program called OULS that gave full rides to top students attending schools like Harvard, NYU, Columbia, and Brown. By 2025, it was helping students like Cameron Gaskins at Morehouse and Sana Deus at Brown become doctors, engineers, and more. But just when things seemed to quiet down, health problems hit. In June 2024, Oprah was hospitalized after a stomach virus left her severely dehydrated. Gayle King shared on CBS that stuff was coming out of both ends. Oprah was 70 at the time, and the situation was so serious she had to miss major CBS appearances. She later said it felt like dying. Rumors started about her possibly retiring. Doctors confirmed the issue wasn't related to her weight loss meds, but people still worried. Then came more legal trouble. In March 2025, she was subpoenaed in Russell Simmons' defamation case. Lawyers wanted her to hand over all emails, recordings, and notes by March 18th. They believed she knew more about the Simmons story than she admitted. Around the same time, rumors spread linking her to Jeffrey Epstein. But fact-checkers confirmed she wasn't on any client list. Her name had just appeared in headlines that were shown in court, not in actual documents. As if that wasn't enough, James Frey returned to the spotlight in 2025 with an interview where he called Oprah a hypocrite. He accused her of lying to the public more than he ever did. This all went back to 2006, when she had chosen his memoir, A Million Little Pieces, for her book club. Soon after, it was revealed he had made up about 15% of the book. Oprah confronted him live on her show. Years later, in 2011, she admitted she may have been too harsh. But Frey never forgave her. In 2025, he released a new book and used the moment to reignite the feud.